Okay, just this is where we left off. The last week, of course, we did not have a Daniel class, and we were going through the different statements here that occurs in verses 11 and 12, particularly in verse 12. We got down to where the host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. As Christ said, their transgressions, the Israel had filled up the cup of their iniquities, and the time had come for it to be the judgment to be come on the nation, and it cast down the truth to the ground. We took that where truth was overthrown, and it practiced and prospered. And the prospered here is the talking about all the pagan feast days and festivals and holidays that were transferred from the paganism to become a part of the papal regime and papal order. And this appealed to the masses and had the effect of increasing the numbers of converts. Now, I know that all this I know I'm told that some feel we're getting a little bogged down in the study, and it is hard. You come taking it bit by bit, and you come back to it and every week. And what I'd just like to do for today is just take us through a kind of a picture PowerPoint of what we've been taking, kind of to get the big picture. Before I do that, though, I also want to let anybody who wants to mark their Bibles. We on the site, on our Richard Christadelphian site, there is a Daniel Bible Marking Examples, chapter 8. And if you click on that, you'll bring up 3 pages here that's made it look like a marking Bible. And there's 3 pages. Here it starts with chapter 8. And you can follow this if you want, put in your own references if you want, but this is a kind of an example of how it could look. And then the next page, just reduce that a little bit, and again, it shows the how that would look to have it all marked, going down through here on the left-hand column, and then again on the right-hand column, and right down to the end of the chapter. So it's all there for, if you want to go in there, just bring that up, and you can go on there and study. So just going to and starting here at verse 3, and this is the map that would apply to that. Daniel 8, verse 3, I lifted up mine eyes and saw, behold, there stood before a river a ram, which had 2 horns, and the 2 horns were high, but one was higher than the other, and the higher came up last. And we know, and he says in verse 4, he says, I saw the ram pushing westward and northward and southward. We know the ram is, of course, Persia, and how it Medes and Persians. The Persians were more powerful, so they were higher than the 2 horns, and they expanded. They expanded northward and southward and westward. They were situated, here's Persia, so they expanded westward. And that no beast might stand before them, neither was any that could deliver. And then he's told in verse 20, he says, the ram that you saw us having 2 horns are the kings of Media and Persia. We don't have to guess. Daniel's told exactly what they were. And then we have, in all of these slides, we're going to have Jerusalem here in the land, and the caption, how long the vision. And that is the theme that's going through all of these, is how long this vision. And the next one we have is a slide of Macedonia. This is where as it said in verse 5, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth and touched not the ground. The goat had a notable horn between his eyes. And this started, as we said, with the king Philip of Macedon. That was the father of Alexander. And that's where it started, in Macedonia here, in Macedon. We noted on the other side of the Aegean Sea is what? It's Persian Empire. So to start, all he had to do was to go across and at one of these narrow points and push against the Persian Empire. And that's what started it. He started in 356 and had some success up to about 350 or so against the Persian Empire. And that's what got it started. And then the next slide, of course, we have the verses 5 and 6. It talks about the he-goat coming from the west with a notable horn. And he came to the ram that had two horns, which I'd seen, came to the Persian Empire. And I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, smote the ram, brake his two horns, and so on. And then he's told in verse 21 what that was. The rough goat is the king of Grecia, Alexander the Great. So here we have the arrow showing from Macedonia, pushing eastward, just about the opposite direction that the Persian Empire came. And he's pushing back and taking over all this country. And the little black line here shows the journey of his progress, how how he went through the land and took over all these places. And it took him 12 years, but by 336, 337, he had it done. Then the next one we go to verse 8. Therefore the he-goat waxed very great. And when he was strong, the great horn was broken. Alexander died. For it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And so we have Seleucus, Ptolemy, Cassander, Lysimachus, the four generals. Antigonus, I should say, was I believe, the brother of Alexander. He was in here trying to reunite that empire, but it was divided between the four generals, and it stayed divided. And he says, now that being broken, the explanation, verse 22, whereas four stood up for it, four kingdoms shall stand up out of the nation, but not in its power. So we've covered all that. We're continuing on. Then we have a little bit later in time, we're coming down now from a period from 303 to 198 BC, and we see what's happening. The two generals, Cassander and Lysimachus, are not on here anymore, and the Antigonid Empire is here, and that's because in the process, the Antigonid Empire did swallow up those two, and it was over Macedonia, and therefore the he-goat waxed very great. The horn was broken, and the notable ones came up, and four kingdoms will stand, but not in his power. So we have going down here, then basically we're left with the Seleucids and the Ptolemies. The Lysimachus had you might say, conceded his empire to another republic called the Romans. And they were part of this and going into the Antigonid Empire. Again, how long division? Jerusalem is still overthrown, still plundered. Then we come to around the 170 to 140, and you can see the different designs here. The one of these bars is where the Seleucid territory was lost to the Parthians, so it's shrinking, and now we have the Seleucids basically by 140 just in this area. In 167, we have Antiochus Epiphanes. He offered sacrifices of pigs on the altar. He overthrew 80,000 Jews slain. And there was always a constant battle between the king of the south of Ptolemaic and the Seleucids. And we have, so out of one of them in verse 9 came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east, toward the pleasant land. And we have this showing here just starting. Here's the Romans coming into the picture, development of the little horn. In the latter time of their kingdom, when transgressors are come to the full, these things happen. And in verse 9, out of one of them came forth this little horn. In verse 23, in the latter time of their kingdom, when the transgressors have come to the full, says a king of fierce countenance and understanding dark sentences shall stand up. And so here we see the little horn growing. The rose color here is Rome growing. This is 89 BC. Seleucids are still here. Ptolemies are still here, north and the south. But in the middle of this, we have the Maccabees and the Hasmonean kingdom, descendants of the Maccabees in 89 BC. Still, how long division? still Jerusalem is held under. Same verses, just a little bit further on in time. How long division? Getting down here now to 56 BC. How long division? Rome is growing. We can see how it's growing, coming down. It's not down to Egypt yet. Now we do. We have about time of Christ. This is where Rome is growing to. Jerusalem, the land of Palestine, still held under. Still on verses 9 and 23. And then we come to AD 70. Antiochus at first trampled it and overthrown the temple. Now it's Vespasian's turn, AD 70. And this takes us to verses 10 to 12. It waxed great, this power, this king that acted according to his will. It waxed great even to the host of heaven, and it cast down some of the hosts of the stars to the ground, stamped upon them. And we see that here. He magnified himself even to the prince of the host. By him the daily sacrifice was taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down, and an host was given him against the daily sacrifice by reason of transgression. The cup of the iniquity of the Jews was full, and it cast down truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. So we see how the little horn now is growing, come right down to envelop Egypt too. His power shall be mighty, but not by his own power, we're told in verse 24. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And this is where we're at right now, and considering those verses and those statements. And then the next year is to be taken from AD 70 to AD 320, the growth of the Roman Empire. It's at its fullest. I think at 117 was when this was taken. It was at its maximum. Jerusalem is still in the midst of it. How long division? And we have here the little horn of the goat over Constantinople. And this symbolizes the military function of the Roman Empire. It wasn't always at Constantinople, but it was always the military aspect. And now we have the little horn of the eyes and mouth. The Pope is here. That's not so much, that's from Daniel chapter 7, but it's still there. That's the interaction between these two, the military and the ecclesiastical. And that's part of the prospering and practicing was the interaction that took place between those two. And, always how long was the vision? Israel was still held down. And we go to 324, and here's the division of the empire into two parts, the east and the west. And now we have another, this takes us from Revelation, but it's the dragon, the great red dragon, which was the same, it still symbolized that military power of Rome and based in Constantinople. At this time was Constantine in AD 324. We read about it in chapter 6 of Revelation. We'll read about it in chapter 12. And it cast down truth to the ground. It practiced and prospered and magnified himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. Then the next one, we have all the invasions of the barbarians. But again, although the Western Roman Empire was very much diminishing because of the invasions, the barbarians invading the land, the Eastern Roman division held sound, and it gave help to the Pope. We are told in Revelation 13 that the dragon helped the beast of the sea, which was the papacy. It gave it power. Then we go to AD 600. The same statement at verse 25, through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper. That still applies. And he's given power to the Pope. And those were given by Emperors Justinian and Phocas. They gave permanent power to the papal office in Rome. It was given by Justinian, and it was enforced by Phocas. And it was in about 610, and it lasted until AD 1870. The Revelations calls it 1260 years, AD 610 to 1870. That was given by the military to the papal office. That's all encompassed. It's all part of this. That's why we say it's a long continuum. But you notice here, Jerusalem is still encompassed by its enemies. How long the vision? And here's the temple of, or the chapel of Saint Sophia in Constantinople. It was built by Justinian for the Roman Catholic state. Shows how much the military wing was involved with the ecclesiastical, which lends truth to this statement that through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. And we show what's happening in that AD 600. The Mohammedans are starting to gain a foothold, and they will invade this land. You know, how long the vision?
How long is this?
How long the vision was, how long, that was Daniel's question. How long would this vision be? He was told it would be for 2,300 days. And you know, we have that in this showing how long that was in that timeline. So 650, we still going on. The Arab Caliphate now encompasses Jerusalem. And we have the Byzantine Empire, which is a Greek title for the Eastern Roman Empire, and still shows, we call it the Greco-Roman Empire. It's still the fourth beast dominion. That's the two legs of Nebuchadnezzar's image, is the fourth beast dominion. One stands in Rome, the other stands in Constantinople. And 867, it's still the Byzantine Empire is shrinking. And shrinking more. Now the Crusades are in Jerusalem. Still, Daniel's question, how long the vision? All part of the 2,300 years. And we have 1,200, the Crusades there. And then we go to see how the Ottoman Empire has grown, and the Eastern Roman Empire has shrunk down to these two little spots here. But you notice what Brother Thomas says, it matters not whether they be pagan Romans, Catholic Greeks, Muslim Turks, or Greek Catholic Russians. The power that rules in Constantinople and plants its standard in Assyria is the little horn of the Assyro-Macedonian horn of the goat. So he says it really doesn't matter who has this, whoever has it at the time occupies and has this title. So by 1683, it was the Ottomans that had that title. And still, you know, Jerusalem is encompassed by its enemies. 1900, getting down close to our time. The Ottoman Turks are shrinking. They're called the sick man of Europe. They no longer have the empire that they used to have. Jerusalem, however, still encompassed by its enemies. Then we come to 1921, the British Empire. It anywhere where there's the pink here, between 1800 to 1921, was the British, the King of the South, British Empire occupying Egypt, which was the original Ptolemaic King of the South, and would take that as a close-up. They occupied Egypt, and in 1921, 18 to 21, they pushed against the occupier of Constantinople, which was what was left of the Ottoman Turks, and they pushed it out, cleared that. They also cleared out Syria. And that has opened the way for, and this is just the dialogue of how that happened. The Ottoman Empire signed the armistice on the 30th of October, 1918, and it was occupied by British, French, and Italian Greek forces. So that brings us to the last slide. This is where we're at today, and this is the fulfillment of that Daniel chapter 8, verses 24 and 25. And it says at the end, he will also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. So what we're looking for is for Gog to come down on Constantinople and occupy it. And by occupying it, it takes over that both the eastern and western legs of the Roman dominion, and makes it stand on its feet. It gives life to Nebuchadnezzar's image. It makes it stand on its feet, and also will come down and occupy Syria, which it pretty much does today. By occupying Syria, it will be the old king of the north, the Seleucids, and that gives the Gog the title of the king of the north, and it also gives it the title of the fourth beast dominion, the little horn of the goat. That's how we look for Gog to come down and fulfill that prophecy, and he will stand up against Christ and the saints. But once he makes that image to stand, what happens is that there's a little stone, smites it on its feet. All the 12 kingdoms here, smites it on its feet. It crumbles and is blown away in ashes. So that's the big picture of this vision of Daniel 8 in its completeness as far as I can take it. So I just hope that's maybe helped to give everybody an overview of that long continuum here, this 2,300 years. It goes from BC 333 or 337 in there, was fulfilled and came to an end in 1967 when the Jerusalem was once again occupied by Jews. And so how long the vision came to an end. I hope that's helped a little bit. Brother Sid, I'll take a quick comment here.
Yeah, thanks, Brother Ed. That was a good explanation. And as usually comes out when you're trying to do a proper job of studying a piece of scripture, a piece of these prophecies, you find that the big picture is made up of the details. Just like any good piece of art is, if there's no details in it, it's pretty poor art. And so there needs to be no apology for going into the details, because they're necessary to understand the big picture.
Yeah, thanks, Brother Sid, for that comment. So that brings us pretty much to the end of our time, our allotted time here. So